Welcome back, children, once again. This time we'll be seeing the second part of Chapter 3, Editing in GIMP. Today we'll be discussing only one topic, that is getting unstuck. What do you mean by getting unstuck? To rectify issues when getting stuck when working with GIMP. Getting unstuck means how do you rectify the problems that happens when you're working in GIMP. Some common problems and their rectifications are as follows. Some of the common problems that you face when you work with GIMP is being explained here, and we will be also giving you suggestions how to get out of that problem. They are floating selection, hidden selection, active layer is not visible, no action can be performed on the active layer. These are the common problems that occur when you work with GIMP. I'll read it one more time. Floating selection, hidden selection, active layer is not visible, and no action can be performed on the active layer. The first one is floating selection. It is also called as floating layer since it's a temporary layer. For example, due to floating layer, you may not be able to draw an object in a layer. When you're working in a layer and a temporary layer is formed on top of it, that temporary layer is called the floating layer. Due to that temporary layer, you will not be able to make the changes in the layer that you want. So what should we do for that? That is what is being discussed in the solution. Check the layers section, and the topmost layer is the floating selection layer. You need to anchor the floating layer with the anchor command to an active layer to solve the floating layer issue. If you are having different layers opened on the right side as you have seen in your textbook, then the topmost layer will be the floating layer if one is already formed. Then what you need to do is you have to use the anchor command on the floating layer to solve this problem. To activate the anchor command. How do you activate the anchor command? On the image window, click the layer menu. Click the anchor layer option. That is, if you're having a floating layer formed on the currently working layer, you have to activate the anchor command. For activating the anchor command, you have to open the image window, then click on the layer menu and click on the anchor layer option. You can also anchor a floating selection by. There is another alternative method to creating a new layer, clicking the anchor button on the layers section. One way is to anchor it with the anchor command, or the other way is you can create a new layer and then anchor it to the new layer, the temporary layer to the new layer. Hidden selection. A selected image has dotted lines around it. Sometimes the dotted lines do not make the image details clearly visible. Hidden selection means you are selecting a portion of the picture that will be shown as dotted lines. So what is the solution for that? You are using a hidden selection by making a dotted line across the image, or by selecting a particular area you will not be able to see the details of the image that you need clearly. So what is the solution for that? On the image window, click the view menu and the view menu appears. You have to click on the view menu in the image window. Click whether the show selection option is selected. Then in that you have to look for the show selection option. If not, click the show selection option. The tick sign appears beside the show selection option. That is, sometimes when you click on it, it will not be seen. The selection will not be seen on the image. In those cases, you have to go to the image window and click on the view menu. In the view menu, you have to look for an option called show selection, and if it is not selected, you have to click on it and select it, and the tick mark appears next to the show selection option. The next problem that we face is the active layer is not visible. The current layer that you are working on is your active layer that is not visible to you or you can't see it. How can you rectify that issue? Sometimes you may not be able to view the layer you are currently working on. The I symbol beside the layer in the layer section indicates that it is visible. When you're working on different layers, you may not know which is the currently working layer. If you're not able to find the currently working layer or the active layer, you just have to look in the layers section. There will be an I symbol on the one that you are currently working on. So the solution is on the layers dialog under the layers section. Click whether the I symbol is visible beside the active layer. You have to look for the I symbol beside the active layer. If not, click the first toggle button on the left of the active layers and hence the active layer becomes visible. There is a toggle switch. Toggle switch means a switch that can be slided from one end to another. You can click on it, then the active layer becomes visible. So if you are working on a layer, we are not able to identify it, then you have to look for the I symbol beside the layer. If it is not there, you have to go to the layers dialog box under the layers section and check whether the I symbol is visible beside the active layer. If it is not visible, you have to click on the toggle switch and hence the active layer becomes visible. Another problem that you have to rectify is no action can be performed on the active layer. That is, you try to do something on the active layer that you are working on and you are not able to do anything. You are not able to perform any operation on the active layer that you are working on. There may be two reasons for not being able to view the actions performed on this layer. There are two reasons why you are not able to do so. The layer you are currently working on is not in the first position in the layers section. The currently working layer should be in the first position of the layers section. That is, it should be given maximum priorities as you are working on it. If it is not so, you will face this problem. The opacity of the layer is low. Another reason for it is the opacity of the layer is low. Opacity means lack of transparency, or it will not provide any transparency between the layers. That is, you cannot see through the layers. So if those things happens, what is the solution? Press and hold the left mouse button and drag the required layer to the first position. First thing what you have to do is you have to press and hold the left mouse button and drag the layer to the first position. Adjust the opacity of the layer in the layers section by dragging the opacity slider. You have to adjust the opacity by going to the layers section and dragging the opacity slider. You have to drag the slider to the opacity range that you need. With this, we come to the end of today's session as well as the end of this chapter. Please go through this and understand the topic. Thank you.